Student Association in Thailand, or you can call it Permita. First, let me introduce myself. My name is Rafael, as a head of Economic Creative Departments, and I'll be responsible for hosting this event today. And it's such an honor to welcome all of you here in this event. Thank you for joining us today, and I hope from this event, all of you guys can get a lot of knowledge, networking, and useful insight information for your plan in the future. Many thanks to our amazing guest speaker, Mr. Semhana, Mr. Napatara, and Mr. Awaludin. Thank you for joining us today, for sharing your experience and knowledge to us. And I'm really thankful too for the presence of Mr. Ahmad Wicaksono as the head of Attaché of Educational and Cultural of Indonesian Republic in Thailand. So for the very first event, we will hear opening speech by Mr. Ahmad Wicaksono. Mr. Ahmad Wicaksono, the floor is yours.
Thank you very much for the moderator. I would like to say good night, everyone. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. The Honorable Mr. Samhana, the Deputy Director of AIT Extension and also Young Faculty of School of Management AIT, Mr. Napatara Tumachua, the co-founder of Environment, and also Mr. Awaludin Arianto, the founder of Kita Timba, and especially also for Mr. Sahril as the president of Indonesian Student Association in Thailand, and all the members of Permita, Indonesian Student Association here in Thailand, distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen. This night, we have a special Business Insights Series session held by the Ekraf division of Permita. First of all, I want to introduce myself. My name is Ahmad Wicaksono. I am the Attaché of Education and Culture in Indonesian Embassy here in Bangkok. And on behalf of Indonesian Ambassador, I'm gladly to say thank you for all of the guest speakers especially, and also the Indonesian Student Association who helped organize this occasion. Actually, I just started my position in March this year. And previously, I'm the associate professor in civil engineering at the Universitas Brawijaya in Malang, which is located in East Java in Indonesia. I have experience in quality assurance for the university that I work for, maybe about almost 11 years. And just for the information to Mr. Samhana, I am also the alumni of AIT. I'm the AITians. I was graduate in 1995. So maybe here in Bangkok, I am the first AITians graduate who become the Attaché of Education and Culture here in Bangkok. Today's meeting theme is the importance of strategy and planning. I think all of us know what the Benjamin Franklin, or some people say Winston Churchill, also said about the planning. Yeah. They say that if we fail to plan, so we plan to fail. Yeah. In the organization, it is very important to have a good plan. Sometimes we need to discuss for a long time to make a good plan. And most of the time, we always use a terminology like PDCA, maybe some of you already familiar with. Yeah? Plan, do, check, and act. Yeah. And this is what now in Indonesian Embassy, we also applying the ISO 9001 for the quality management system. Yeah. And we will get RAI certification next year in 2022. I hope that this discussion will benefiting us, especially the student of Indonesian here in Thailand, and I hope they get more understanding on how important the strategy and planning, especially on business organization. Again, I would like to say thank you to Mr. Samhana, Mr. Napatara, and Mr. Awaludin for the opportunity to share the experience tonight. And also special thanks for Shahril and Permita team for conducting this discussion, especially to Mr. Rafael as moderator. Hope all of you always in a good health, and let's enjoy the discussion now. Thank you very much. Good night.
Thank you for the opening, Mr. Ahmad Wicaksono, as Educational and Cultural Attaché of Republic Indonesia for Thailand. I hope this event will be increase the relationship between Indonesia and Thailand in the term of educational purpose. The next is opening speech by our President of Indonesia Student Association in Thailand, Mr. Shahril Ahmad. The floor is yours.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Wing. Good night, all participants, ladies and gentlemen. Good night to our special guests, our honorable speaker, Mr. Sam Hana, Mr. Napatra, and Mr. Awaludin. And also join with us tonight, our Education and Culture Attaché of Indonesian Embassy in Bangkok, Mr. Sony. Good night, sir. All participants, ladies and gentlemen, let me welcome all of you to this webinar, Business Insight, the importance of strategy and planning. This webinar is organized by Permita, Overseas Indonesian Student Association in Thailand. Permita wishes to provide a program and activities to improve the knowledge and information to as much as possible to the Indonesian student in Thailand or in Indonesia or anywhere, and to our community. The pandemic has brought so many challenges on entrepreneurship, but it also brings us about new opportunities. I think everyone have to know about the surviving, striving, and finding entrepreneur opportunities in this situation or preparing for the new normal situation. As a master student, I'm very glad to attend this webinar because I have a dream to create and run my own business in the future. But yes, my plan is far from perfect, so I need experience as a main ingredients of my plan. But now I'm still focused to chasing my degree in my university now. So I need to take that experience from the people who have a good experience about it. And we know that we are so close to the Indonesia Emas 2045. So we have to prepare with all that we have, include this business field. So once again, I want to say thank you very much to all participants and wish you a very nice webinar. Thank you.
Thank you for the opening speech, Mr. Shahril. Permita, as an independent organization of Indonesian students in Thailand, will always try to provide the best from the community in all of our events and projects. This event will be divided into 3 segments, each for 1 speaker. Each segment consists of presentations and Q&A sessions. Me, as a moderator, will be the timekeeper and reminder too. For the effectiveness of the time, participants can type their questions in the chat box during the presentations, and I will deliver 3 questions only from the first speaker, Sam Hana, after the presentations, and 2 questions after each speaker. No need to wait longer. Let's begin this event. Please welcome Mr. Sam Hana. The floor is yours.
Let me unmute. Here we go. Okay, thank you. You can hear me okay now? Great, thank you. Thank you so much for the great introduction, and I am really, really honored to be here. And when Mr. Rafael asked me, I was a little bit shocked, scared, and nervous. But I'm also approaching this with a lot of enthusiasm. My dream later on in my years now is to really to pass on a lot of my experience to a lot of the younger, the next generation, who are definitely going to carry us forward, no doubt. And I met several of them recently, and of course in the classes that I teach. So I really do appreciate it. And I really didn't know that, Mr. Wicaksono, you were an alumni. That's amazing. You are.
Thank you.
That's brilliant. That is brilliant. That's fantastic. I'd love to meet you sometime and
Yes.
and learn from you and your experience also at AIT. So without any further ado, and actually one other thing is Mr. Rahmat mentioned something, that he has a dream, and he wants to own his own business and run his own business, and I think that's a brilliant dream, to tell you the truth. And I think this is a great opportunity. You can never stop learning, and this is one thing that I have always determined in my life and in my career, that even at my age, I'm always learning. And so please don't ever think that you can ever reach a point where you can stop learning. Learning is continuous, and it's always great to share that learning. So please, ask me any questions later on. So I do appreciate it. What I might do now is share my screen, if you don't mind, if that's okay. I'll share my screen, and here we go. Share. All right. So can everybody see the screen? Yes, great. I've got thumbs up. Okay. So what I want to do is talk to you about the importance of strategy and planning. And excuse the picture, this is not a chimney that's blowing out dirty smoke. All right. Let's just pretend that this is a company. All right. So let me just make that very clear. But I thought, just for the sake of the color and the presentation, it would be really, really great. I know that I have about 40 to 45 minutes, and I'll deliver this. But please, I'd like to encourage you to ask as many questions as possible, and I'm more than happy to answer. So really, the importance of strategy and planning, let me tell you, everything fails without strategy, and everything fails without planning. And exactly like what the Honourable Mr. Wicaksono mentioned, that, we fail to plan because we don't plan. So if we don't plan, then we definitely do fail. But let me just give you a little bit of my career highlights. I'm Australian, and if you don't understand my accent, please forgive me, but I will slow down. But I've been living here in Asia for about over 15 years. So I've lived in Malaysia, and I've lived in Thailand and in China, Cambodia, various places, Vietnam, and so on and so forth, when I was working with several other companies. I'm married. I have 3 young adult children. I'm a sports addict. I love sports. I used to play sports when I was younger. I used to play a lot of tennis, and I enjoy reading, and I get involved in a lot of community transformation projects in Australia and also over here. My education background is basically a bachelor's in mechanical engineering, Monash University, Caulfield and Monash University in Australia, and then a master's in economics and marketing. And then after that, while I was working with Shell, I also was invited to join an EMBA international class. So I completed my EMBA. And some of my career highlights, as you can see there on the right, is I was CEO and Vice President of Strategy in ASEAN, Shell Global Lubricants, but also included China as well. So Thailand, Malaysia, Singapore, and China. I was also a board president for SAIC, which is Shanghai Automotive Industrial Corp, which is one of the largest car manufacturing companies in China. In fact, it is the largest. Some of the major brands like General Motors and Audi, Chevrolet, and all of those are manufactured, BMW, manufactured by SAIC. It was a Shell and China and SAIC joint venture in Shanghai. I was actually based in Shanghai for several years with my family, leading the organization there. And then CEO of Macro Auto Care. You know, if those of you who live and have had something to do with Macro, I was actually CEO of Macro Auto Care, which is a branch of Macro. And then we were acquired by Shell. And this is how I transitioned to Shell from Macro Auto Care. Managing Director of Bendix, which is a friction material manufacturer, car componentry, vehicle, trucks and aeroplanes and motorcycles and cars. And then Honeywell, Allied Signal, which is aerospace, the largest aerospace manufacturer. They used to, you know, and they still do manufacture the big rockets that go to the moon and so on and so forth, in Australia, Malaysia, and Thailand. And then corporate development specialist, currently with AIT School of Management, and also I'm currently the Deputy Executive Director of AIT Extension. Just some of the brief profile is, I was selected with about 8 CEOs here in Thailand to actually deliver a comprehensive automotive manufacturing strategy to the incumbent Thai government at the time when it was run by Mr. Thaksin Shinawatra. Ultimately, this presentation and this paper resulted in several companies that actually invested. Big Japanese Toyota, they actually shifted all of their R&D to Thailand, research and development to Thailand as well. Led a successful change management transition at the time when Shell acquired Macro Auto Care for $279 million US. So I was actually on the receiving end. So I was the managing director of Macro Auto Care. Shell acquired us. And then 2 years later, we were successful in selling Shell Auto Care to Bridgestone for $820 million US dollars. So that's not bad. That's about 3 times the value over a very short period of time. Because of the success of this, then I was asked by Shell to lead a team because they acquired a company, Pennzoil, which is one of the biggest, not the biggest, but one of the biggest oil companies in America. And Shell acquired Pennzoil Quaker State. And so I was asked to go and lead the team during the acquisition stage. And that was only shortly after Shell Auto Care sold to Bridgestone. And then we did also a global rollout. In fact, UTOC, UTOC, was a program that was developed and initiated here in Thailand. The senior management in Shell loved the program. UTOC stands for Ultimate Treatment of Customer. That's what UTOC stands for. So the senior people in Shell back in The Hague, in Netherlands, in Holland, loved the initiative, and they decided to roll this out in right throughout Shell globally, amongst their 140,000 employees during that time. And then I was Vice President of Strategy Rollout and Implementation with Shell Global, as well as the Asian custodian of Shell scenario planning process. Shell is very well known for its scenario planning. In other words, when they plan very seriously 45, 50 years in advance. They don't plan just for next year or the next 3 years. They actually plan over a long period of time. And then I was also on the selection committee for university alumni in Shell China. So Shell basically used to visit all of the major universities in China, and we would target the top 3% of students and offer them jobs with Shell. So that's basically a brief profile of my background. Now, strategy. I think again, Mr. Wikaksano said exactly the same thing. If you really do not strategize, you're actually planning to fail. And I can be a witness of that. And it's an example, and I can give you several examples. So I teach strategy in the university. To the MBA and MSc Master of Science students, and I teach this with a passion because I love strategy. Because without strategy, you actually don't have really a lot of foundation. It doesn't matter if you're a small company, a medium-sized company, or a very large company. That does not really matter. The most important thing is to implement and develop a culture of strategy. As it says here, strategy undergirds an organization's aspiration and establishes a line of sight for suitable growth. In other words, if you are not aligned as a management group, if you are not aligned as a company on where you want to go, what you want to be, how big you want to grow, and everyone has got different understanding of where the company is going. It's like being in a soccer team and looking for the goals. One player is going to the left, another player is looking to the right, and then the captain is calling them all and telling them this is the way that this is the direction of the goals. And so I really wanted to mention that to you in a very strong way. In fact, 92%, this is a fact, right? And you can research it. 92% of strategies actually fail and only 8% succeed, right? Throughout the globe. 92% of strategies. And believe it or not, I will tell you later that I was actually involved and I actually initiated research when I was in Shell China. And the percentage that we found was almost close to this. 92% of the companies that we actually researched actually, believe it or not, did not have a strategy, right? And this is what a company looks like. A company is made up of all sorts of cogs and wheels, and there's underneath the foundation of a company, all of this is really critical. Any of these areas that are broken breaks the company or slows down the company, right? So it's important, frankly, to actually ensure that all of this is well lubricated, all of this is all oiled, and of course delivering according to the vision and the mission of the organization. Imagine this. I just want to show you something. Imagine this. These are top teams that I just picked out of nowhere, right? That soccer team down the bottom here is Real Madrid. Most of you would have heard of Manchester United and FC Barcelona. Real Madrid, of course, have got a lot of famous players. This team is worth almost 780 million US dollars. This is about 662 million euros, right? A crazy amount, right? Up the top here, this is the Ferrari team. And you can see the Shell pectin here. I was actually involved in the first Formula One race, which took place in Shanghai in China. We were actually living and I was working in China, and we entertained and took out Michael Schumacher for dinner. And my son was about 11 or 12 years of age. He was so excited. Anyway, this team is worth 1.3 billion US dollars, right? 1.3 billion, that's the value of this team. And this is a basketball team. It's the second largest basketball team in the US. And it's the, of course, LA Lakers. Again, famous basketball players. And that is worth 1.3 billion, not million, $1.3 billion. Imagine the machinery, imagine all the structure that has to carry this team into success. Imagine everything that goes on. Imagine this team not having a strategy. Imagine this team not thinking, what are we going to do in the next 5 years, 10 years, 15 years? They have a plan, right? But they don't just have a plan for the immediate next year. They have a plan to grow, to develop, to remain number one, to create this distance between themselves and the competitors. Each and every one of these teams is an example of competition and an example of excellent strategy formation. This is what they do. So all that you see is what you see is on the surface, which is the players playing, but there's people that are looking after the players. There are people that are looking after their health. There are people that are doing all the public relations. There are people that are doing all of the marketing and so on and so forth. You imagine everything behind every team requires almost articulate delivery. And that's, again, that's what I was saying. This is what is important. Imagine every team having all of these cogs and wheels and sprockets working hand in hand, arm in arm, working together as a unified, objective to deliver the mission and the vision and the mission of the team, or the mission and the vision of the company. So imagine you might have procurement, HSE and S. So this is health, safety, safety and environment and security, which is what we used to have in Shell. Imagine quality control. These are just examples of some of the things that there are many departments: production planning, IT, sales, marketing, so on and so forth. So all of these have to work together in unison in order to deliver the strategy. But if you don't have a strategy, each and every one of those departments are working on their own. And that company might last 2, 3 years, 4 years. And then I meet a lot of people who say, yes, we have a strategy. But I'll mention that to you in just a moment. A strategy is not digital transformation. All elements of change are embedded in a strategy creation. In other words, you take into consideration digital transformation. You take into consideration change that's taking place, maybe departmental change, maybe physical change, right? You take into consideration new acquisitions. In other words, strategy takes into consideration, are we going to buy another company? Are we going to grow? How are we going to grow? Are we going to divest of one of our departments or one of our locations? Business model, pivot, how do we take pivot into consideration? And the other thing, of course, is expansion as well. But imagine now living in this brand new world, this new world that we're living in, which is really strange. I never actually dreamt that I would be living in an age like this. I think none of you actually ever dreamt that you would be living in a situation like this, right? Where we're isolated. Some of us are overseas and we don't see our family for a year or two because of this one simple virus, which has almost destroyed and readjusted the whole world. Imagine companies now not having a strategy after all of this learning, after everything. Now, a lot of companies are having to go back to the drawing board to relook at their strategy, how they can secure their supply chain, how they can secure their procurement, how they can go back into the marketplace and gain back what they used to own as far as the footprint of their market share. Every company's market share shrunk, including Shell, including ExxonMobil, including all the large oil companies. People stopped driving, people stopped transporting, And so, of course, the oil prices dropped, people had to find new jobs, and so on and so forth. And so I want to show you something that I mentioned earlier about my days with Shell. So when I was working with Shell, one of the things that really took place was we have distributors, right, who distribute and sell our oil. And of course, we have suppliers who supply us with the packaging, who supply us with the bottles, who supply us with the ingredients to mix the oil and to make the automotive oils and everything like that. In actual fact, as you can see down here, the sample size is 793 companies across 3 continents. What does that mean? When I was in China, one of the biggest things was price. Shell was not, was in actual fact the most expensive company. It wasn't a most expensive oil. So why should people continue to distribute our oil while Sinopec, which is the national oil company, was under our below our price between 28 and 32%. So of course we wanted to still capture these wholesalers. Their contract was expiring, and so I wanted to implement a research just to see what we can do in order to help them so that we can keep them as wholesalers, as successful distributors of our oil. But what we found is that 63% of those companies in China and overseas, amongst the 793 companies that I'm talking about, right? 63%, right, of those companies do not have or possess or talk about a company-wide strategy, right? 26% talk about strategy at the top executive level of their company or the management, but they never communicate or cascade down to the rest of the organization about their strategy is. It could be the mom and pop shop, it could be the father and the son, and they think of the strategy, but their 200 employees don't know anything about it, right? And so then they start to, channel the company towards the successful strategy that they only know about, but that no one else knows about. And of course, they don't get involvement from anyone else. And so that becomes a failing strategy. And then of course, these people here, the 11%, culturally, in their culture, have a strategy. 11% possess silo planning business plan. However, 7% of the 11% have a proper annual strategic plan. That the majority of the stakeholders, in other words, the people that are talking and walking in the organization, all of them know which way they're heading. They know the strategy. It's been communicated. It's been cascaded. The interesting thing is that the average success rate of companies that don't have a strategy is they last for about 5 years. And those that have a strategy and a culture of strategy and strategic thinking and strategic talking actually have a success rate of 15 years plus. So amazingly enough, if you add these two up, you actually get to around about 89%, right? And then if you add the other 4%, right, that comes very close to 92%, which we didn't know about. So 92% of companies actually don't have a proper strategy or a strategic culture, right? So I don't care what you introduce in the world, you have to embed it as part of your strategy. Whether you're an embassy, or whether you're a company, or whether you're a university, or whether you're a small company or a mid-sized company, if you do not initiate and develop a strategic culture, it becomes very difficult to sustain that brand or develop that brand any further. Because somebody else, this is the land of opportunity, right? I'm talking about the globe. Everybody wants to compete, and I always talk about, for instance, Uber or Grab, for instance. They were disruptors, but now there are disruptors that are now disrupting the disruptors. And maybe the new disruptors have a proper strategy. Maybe they have something that is planned rather than a hit and miss type of opportunity. So 5 really, really foundational implementations of strategy, which I teach in our class, is really, and then we drill down and we look at all of these: strategy articulation, we look at validation, we look at communication, we look at monitoring, and we look at engagement. This is our Shell model, right? It has to incorporate anything that you start in strategy. Is this: you create, and over here you execute, and you make sure that it's execution that's delivered and it's sustainable. In other words, again, it's not a hit and miss. So articulation is promoting a shared vision. This is not only just in the secret rooms of the boardroom. No, it is actually articulating it so that we can all share this vision, so that we can all point to the same goal, so that we can all have a line of sight. And then we have validation up here, which is the human aspect of engagement. And you can see this is in blue, this is in blue, and this is in blue. This is really to do with the human aspect. It's really a human aspect of engagement, engaging people, exciting them about making them feel that they're a part of the strategy, right? And then communication, I think, is one of the biggest failings of any organization, right? If you don't communicate, and if you don't communicate, and if you don't communicate, you fail in any sort of relationship, right? Think about it. You know, any sort of relationship that has the absence of communication, right? Then it just doesn't succeed, right? So most critical component of strategy implementation is all about communication, and it's cascading it down into the different levels, and then monitoring it. And that's why some start a good strategy idea and they think this is fantastic, and then 3 months or 4 months down the road, it fails. Why? Because it's not being monitored, right? KPIs and the development of all of these things are important. And of course, engaging ensures that agreed set of action carry all agreed components of the strategy forward to completion. Forward to completion, not just forward, but forward to completion. So we always used to have a very, very important saying, all right, in Shell, and it's called delivery promise. When I was talking to the chairman of Shell, Mr. Jeroen van der Veer, my budget, you know, was a big budget globally. I had about 37 countries that I was really in charge of in rolling out the strategy. My budget was around about 1.9 billion US dollars, which is no different to those, you know, sports teams, right? So what you do is that you engage people in there. You get together and you start talking and articulating the strategy, and then you start measuring, right? And you measure the performance of the strategy. But you know, one of the big generals in the US Army, his name is General Schwarzkopf. I heard him speak once, and he said this. He said, you know, great, start a strategy. You don't have to be married to the strategy. You can change the strategy. If the environment changes or the circumstance change, then change your strategy. But don't throw your strategy out the window and then do nothing, and then start to scramble around and say, our strategy doesn't work. It's once you articulate, you validate, you communicate, you monitor, and then you engage people, your strategy will succeed. But that has to be part of the culture. And that is really what is important, right? So you think about it, strategy articulation. What is that? It's really articulating the goal, the vision, the targets, the key managers, you know, leaders and executives in the organization. to enhance as well as promote a shared vision. Hey, do you believe it? Yes. Do you believe it? Do you believe it? And then you argue inside the room and you say, no, I don't believe this. And you argue with one another until finally you come up with a result, right? But it's still a shared vision, right? This could also involve the dissemination of information to internal as well as critical external stakeholders. In other words, we're thinking about doing ultimate treatment of customer program. We ask people outside, what do you expect as a customer from Shell, right? Listen to the voice of the customer. Bring this into the organization. Articulate it. Then put it into a plan. And then excite people about it and say, you know what? This is going to be part of our strategic culture. We are now, or our strategic intent, right? This is what we're going to take on. So we take it on and then we start to develop it. And then we make it and articulate it into a goal. Then we validate it, right? Validating the strategy is essential to implementation and can be both internal and external again. So this takes the important human aspect, asking questions from people and our customers and our wholesalers, and then getting them to say, well, great, this is fantastic. What other information can I give you? And they give us, because we're trying to build this trust. We're trying to build this bridge between ourselves. We just don't make oil. We create energy. This is what Shell is about. Shell is not about oil. It's not about petroleum. That's not what we sell. We sell energy. And that's why Shell made a very strategic decision. At the end of last year in December, they made one of the biggest announcements in Shell's history. And that is, they will become the biggest electricity supplier in the world by the year 2030. So they pivoted from, digging for oil, right, to now becoming a clean energy supplier. I was in that meeting back in 2011 when we were challenged as CEOs in the company to think outside the box. So that strategy has been part of Shell even longer than that, right? What are we going to do? How are we going to do it? When are we going to do it? And then how much time and how much money? They have already spent over $1 billion in charging in energizing this brand new strategy, which is, and they're going to spend a lot more. But imagine this, from fossil fuel to clean energy. That is amazing. Why? Because they want to protect their brand and because they're a 100-year-old company. So it makes sense for anybody to, when you want to learn from someone, you learn from someone who's experienced, right? And this company is experienced, right? And many other companies, you look at Google, you look at Apple, you look at various other major names around the world, and these guys are entrenched in strategy and they know how to validate internally, right? This is why I put this here. The communication aspect of the strategy is so important, right? I mean, it's the most critical, because if you don't communicate it, they will not know it, right? And then if you communicate it, you just might get feedback from your organization, people working inside the organization that can even give you even more feedback, right? If you involve them, if you communicate to them. So we're communicating our objectives, our action plans, right? And then our scorecards. We score everything to see whether this part of the strategy has actually been delivered on time or is on track to be delivered on time. We talk about all of these things, right? And then, of course, we monitor it. We make sure that our KPIs are in place. We make sure that short-term operating objectives need to be associated with the measures, whether it be a business plan, milestone, or a metric. High-level measures that we take into place. And I'll just show you later on, just dashboards that we create. And then, of course, we engage everybody. right? Engaging is about an agreed mechanism of intervention. So it's not announcing the strategy at the beginning of the year and then 12 months later we see how we went. You know, it's milestones along the way to ensure that we're tracking on time. And we conduct, you know, SWOT analysis tools, and we do this, and we look at all the various tools in our class. And when we talk about, you know, implementation of strategies, we look at risk profiling, you know, what are the major threats in the red. We may be lacking in systems and processes, which needs urgent improvement. And we identify all of these things to make sure that we deliver our strategy. And when we deliver our strategy at the end of the year, guess what happens? We have to think of another strategy the following year. This does not stop. And then it becomes more and more part of the culture of the organization. It may be difficult in the first year, maybe difficult in the second year, but maybe, just maybe, 4 years, 5 years down the track. So this is why these companies now, the foundation of those successful companies actually is strategy and strategy formation. You do not talk outside strategy. You talk inside strategy. Any new idea is embedded in the strategy. And then, of course, we measure all of this in different dashboards. Whatever we believe needs to be measured is then, you know, are we measuring the voice of the customer, as I mentioned there? What about our people progressing? So one of the major sayings in Shell is hire talent, retain talent, and develop talent, right? That's why we go and aim for the top 3%, 4% of graduates in universities. And then how do you retain them? You identify them, you retain them, you develop them, you promote them, and so on and so forth. But again, this is a measure because it's important to the company. It's whatever is important for that year's strategy we put on our dashboard, right? You know, of course, revenue, cost of marketing, anything that we think is important then goes on the dashboard. So in my role as CEO, all that I saw was a massive dashboard of key objectives and key deliverables that are important to the strategy. So if something doesn't look right, or doesn't look right, or doesn't look right, then we drill down and we see where that's gone. So this is how we develop it, and this is how we implement it, and this is how, of course, we maintain it, right? But you know, really, Mr. Rahmat, I mean, mentioned that he has a dream, right? I mean, and he wants to own his own company. I mean, none of these companies actually were established big. They started somewhere. They started small and they started to grow. One of the key things in any company that is successful or a successful brand is its culture. And how you develop that culture internally is really critical. That's the foundation, that's the base, and how you grow that and develop that. And it doesn't mean that it stays the way that it is forever, but it means at least you need to establish a foundation. And that is really important. That's cultural, that's important. So again, you become one company, one aim. And so you start to build a strategic mindset culture down the bottom here, you can see, right? And then inspiring people now in order to aim for that goal and that target. And then you develop the tools to make sure that what is planned, and we cover and we unfold all of this in our course in AIT, in AIT School of Management. And we look at all of this, the short, plan, we objectives, the direction. We look at our business model and how we can articulate the business model. We develop the business model. We research other business models and so on and so forth. And then, of course, it's all about what we call CI, which is continuous improvement methodology. In other words, if you see it, again, another thing in top companies, like in Allied Signal, for instance, where I was working, right? You know, if it's broken, you fix it, right? If it's broken, you don't walk past it. If you see a broken chair, if you see a chair without a wheel or a wheel missing, then guess what? You report it. You tell people not to sit on it. You go and fix it. You ask the technicians to fix it, or whatever it is. You own it, because you own. It's the same thing as owning the strategy. We all own the strategy. One little wheel that doesn't work affects all the others, like what I showed you earlier on, right? And by that, then the whole company celebrates, right? One aim. Your target, your achievement, your celebration, your recognition, all happens. But what's foundational is the strategy, the implementation, the communication, continuous communication. And then it's engaging everyone in the communication process. This is everybody in the communication process. Everyone feels that they are empowered and they contribute to that communication. Failure to implement strategy is like this, right? Now, this is in Australia. I don't know whether you've come across this or not, right? Have you ever seen this? This is a frog in a hot pan. I don't know whether you're aware of this or not, but if you put, sadly, if you put a frog in a hot pan, it doesn't recognize that there is heat, and it's too late after that. It's actually cooked. So what happens with organizations that actually do not implement strategy? At the end of the day, something like a COVID-19 hits it, and then they freeze. They don't know what to do. And I must admit, even governments, many governments around the world, sadly, and I try to position myself as a world leader. I wonder what I would have done if I was the Prime Minister of Australia. Would I have done a better job? I don't know. I can't answer that question. What I'm saying is that it's always good to actually be prepared. And so strategy helps you to be prepared. Samsung, or Samsung, as we say in Australia. Samsung is a very successful South Korean electronics company, and it's expanding in many areas. The chairman, the older chairman, the guy who actually established the company, always used to say this. He always used to say that, our strategy looks into as if tomorrow is going to be a disaster. In other words, they're always prepared for emergency. In other words, they never relax. In other words, they never close or shut their eyes, right? This is the chairman of Samsung. So imagine, when you consider how important someone who's at the top is actually saying this, he's saying that strategy is critical. And so we prepare for the worst, but we deliver our best. And that is so critical to implementing strategy. You start small, but you build your culture on strategy. And really, this is all that I want to deliver to you. There's so much more. I'm excited to be part of School of Management because of this, because the adjunct faculties that actually teach in the School of Management, adjunct faculties, 90% of them are either CEOs or they own their large firms in Hong Kong, in the US, in Canada, in areas in Europe as well, in the UK, for instance, in Australia, right? And these guys deliver out of passion, from their knowledge, from their experience. What I like about School of Management is that, frankly, it has invited me because I'm really a practitioner. I'm not necessarily from academia, but I enjoy it, I love it, and I thank you very much for listening. So please ask me any question if you want. Okay, thank you.
Thank you for taking time out of your busy schedule and share a lot of insight to us today, Mr. Semana. And now we are in the question and answer sessions with 3 questions for 15 minutes. We have noted down some questions from the participants. So the first question is, good evening, Sir Sam, is from Adiba. This is such an amazing discussions. I'm curious about your opinion. Which one more important, the experience or the strategy? Just in case, both of them are important. Would you like to share to us how to combine these 2 factors in correct way, so they can work well in our business? Thanks in advance.
Okay, so they want to know what the experience and strategy.
Strategy.
Okay, so hopefully I can answer that correctly. Oh, here it is here, right in front of me. Okay, so an amazing discussion. I'm curious about the opinion, which one more important, experience? More important, the experience or the strategy? It's hand in hand, actually. You know, I wasn't born with strategy mindset, but actually the more I experienced, the more I actually saw that strategy was really critical to delivering results. At the end of the day, and remember I said creation and execution, right? And sustainable execution. So what that meant was that I had to learn all of this. So my experience has led me throughout the years to develop more and more the importance of strategy. So wherever I must say that, in companies, I haven't really, I thank God for that. But, I haven't really failed in implementing strategy, because I learned that, if it's not working, then you look at a different way. If the circumstances change, then you can also look at it at a different way. But it's always communicating and learning that I don't have all the answers. I do not have all the solutions. The solutions come from a combined strategy mindset. In other words, everybody contributes to the strategy. We do all of our analysis. We do all of our research. The research and the analysis comes and sits on the table. And then we start to look at all the analytics, and we identify key areas that we think can be included as part of our strategy. But this came from experience. So I think experience and strategy are both very, very, very important.
So thank you for your detailed answer, Mr. Semana. So we have the second question here. We all know that recent 1.5 years in such a tremendous challenge for us in the COVID pandemic. Can you share with us one example of how your organizations implemented or changed its strategy during this time?
Okay. So it's there are many times that we actually had to change our strategy. One of them is the one that I referred to when I was actually living and working in China. We didn't panic. That's the first thing. The second thing is that we implemented good research and we surveyed a lot of our customers, and we were actually thinking that at one stage, how do we grow our existing suppliers and our existing customer base by a shrinking distributor number. But when we did our research, we found that it couldn't deliver. So we had to retain our current and grow our wholesaler, for instance, our distributor network. So the way that we did this is actually to implement this survey and research. And then we decided that we identified that 63% of them don't even know what strategy is. So we educated them in strategy. We educated them in implementing strategy. And then we helped them to monitor their strategy And that way we were able to keep them because no other supplier like Sinopec or anybody else could actually teach them. So health, safety and environment, for instance, they didn't know about health, safety and environment and the importance of health and safety. So we trained them in that. So we went the extra mile in order to help them. But that wasn't part of our plan initially. But we knew that there was a lot of distributors that were complaining about high prices, and we had to retain them. So somehow we had to work with that. So this is, just one way in which we pivoted very quickly. This took like 4 months to actually develop this. And then when we got the survey and the research back, we decided to embed something in our strategy to be able to help all of these distributors. And in actual fact, we only, out of 47 distributors, we only lost one. And so we were able to retain all of them, even though our prices were high. So in other words, we could have quite easily reduced our price, but that means then our shareholder delivery would not be very good and we would not be as profitable. So again, our distributors were very, very happy. So that was an example.
So thank you, Mr. Semana, for your answers. And we have one last question from Mr. Luhur, especially on making crucial decisions. Some say that it's better to act than nothing, even that the decisions was still in the debate internally. Or is it better to cook up the decisions, even though it takes a longer time?
Okay, yeah, cooking up decisions is not advisable. Cooking up decisions is not really that favorable. I always make decisions based on fact, and that's about all that I always do. So bring me the facts. Let's talk about the facts first. And then I would be much more confident in providing a decision. But again, this decision, in the majority of cases, I would say 80% of the decisions that I made it because of a group consensus. It is not just my decision. It's not just leading from the front. Sometimes in leadership, you can lead from the back, you can lead from the middle, or you can lead from the front. And so it depends on the situation. I had to make this decision on whether I lead from the back or lead from the front. And this requires a lot of thinking, but I never cook up an answer unless I have certain facts, and the collective answers from everybody help me and give me much more confidence in actually delivering the answer, the truthful answer as much as I can. Yes.
Okay, thank you, Simhana, for your questions. From the schedule, we still have 7 minutes left for your Q&A session. So there are another questions I would like to deliver to you. The question is from Aditya. He asked for how would an organization could retain its culture, even if the leaderships are changing each year to strive for excellence. The example is the Permita organizations that change its president each year. Thank you.
Yes, I get asked this question very much, and this is the answer that I give. Not all of us are CEOs. I was not a CEO. I was not a managing director, and I was not a department manager until I worked my way through the organization. One of the biggest frustrations is that if you work in an organization which creates this bottleneck, where you have the guy on the top or the person on the top, and you're really trying to feed as much information to the top, but that person or that group of people or whatever it is do not listen. I've got two suggestions for you. One is good and one is challenging. All right. The first good suggestion is, which probably is about 60% of my character, and that is this: do your best in your department. Remain enthusiastic where you are. Let your enthusiasm and your positive nature rub off on the people that are immediately around you, right? And then encourage them to come up with a small departmental or internal strategy. Then practice your strategy. Practice your strategy internally. This is great because you can't make an impact on an organization unless you have learned first of how to handle smaller teams. So even if you're not the boss of a team, but contribute to it and develop. Don't just do your work from 9 to 5. My suggestion is that come up with the ideas with the level of enthusiasm and contribute to that. Contribute. Keep on contributing. Somebody will notice you. Somebody might not notice you. It doesn't matter. Just keep on contributing. Keep on contributing. And that rubs off on the people around you. And you create a much better space for activating new ideas and so on and so forth. There are people that just come into a room with a lot of energy. And I think that's fantastic. That's 60%, right? The other 40%, and I'm sorry to say is that if you think that this is just not getting anywhere and you're hitting your head against the wall, my suggestion is that look for another job. That's my suggestion. You know, I don't want to try to make it too scientific. I mean, if the owners of the company or the culture of the company is not changing, then you know, but you have tried hard and you have tried to develop and you have tried to get people to listen and you have implemented, you have researched, you have surveyed, you have put your work in, you're 110% in, and people don't recognize it and so on and so forth, then really, you know, don't strain yourself over it. Look for another job and try to look for a culture that maybe accepts. And, you know, some people are very, very selective and I congratulate them on that. I think, wow, if this is their standard and this is the job that they want and this is the company that they want to work for, well, keep on trying, keep on knocking on the door. In the meantime, of course, you have to keep on feeding your family and so on and so forth. Settle for something lower, but don't just leave for nothing. Make sure that you secure something which is much higher and much more satisfactory for you. So, you know, this is not scientific if you don't like something after you have tried. I mean, it's no good just walking away just because you get offended the first time. You know, you've got to keep on trying, keep on working hard, and eventually you will break through. I've had these experiences before, so it's not something that I think is impossible. You will get somewhere, and I didn't, you know, I didn't get. Some of these organizations asked me to work for them, and some of these organizations I had to knock on their door and open the door of opportunity and show them that I was able to deliver in the previous companies, and they need me for their company. They need me for their brand, and so they hired me. So it varies from person to person, from place to place.
Thank you again, Mr. Semhana, for your answers on these questions from participants and for the great presentation too. It was a pleasure to have you with us today in our webinar event. So now, moving right along, we have another special guest. We will have founder of Kita Timba Startup and a member of Indonesia Young Entrepreneur Associations. Please welcome Mr. Awaludin Arianto. The floor is yours.
Okay, good evening, everyone. Firstly, I would like to, I feel honored to become on stage with Mr. Hana and Mr. Wicaksono. Also, thank you for Permita team that allowing us to share a story about my company, but it's going to be at a different level and different stage compared to what Mr. Hana said. It's not as big as Shell because it may be, my company may be like Shell century ago, probably. It's just in the beginning stage. So I would like to share what I've experienced in developing this company, what I do deal with the pandemic, what the strategy I already applied in the company. Maybe it's going to be relevant for you that want to pursue your dream as an entrepreneur and setting up your company. And yeah, we can discuss later after I finish my presentation. So, sorry, have you seen my presentation? Okay, wait, I think. Okay, so my company is called Timba. It's actually we started in Indonesia, and the vision of the startup is to create this one. Kita Timba is a community makerspace. We call ourselves makerspace, and the vision is to connect traditional craftsmen and young designer in Indonesia initially to transform waste into high value products. So we connecting the traditional artisan in Indonesia, especially in ASEAN, in a broader area, and then connect them with designers, and then creating product from waste. This is our people. We work with traditional craftsmen throughout Indonesia. At the start, at the beginning, we have several artisan, carpenter, blacksmith who work with us, and they already have years of traditional skills in making handicrafts, but actually they need to keep up with the demands, with the modern market demands. So we try to upgrade them and collaborate with them and connect them with designers to upgrade their product design to meet current market demand. These are several line of our products. Our products are furnitures and then mostly wooden toys and accessories. It's a really good market and it's still growing in Indonesia, especially Indonesia's in the recent years focus more on creative industries. So it's an emerging market in Indonesia. And then what brings me into this business is that nowadays market wants really custom and really personalized product. So the demand of product that really personalized and custom is really growing, especially with business to customer market, like the growing of e-commerce also drive this demand. And then do-it-yourself movement, and you know, people are the demand of do-it-yourself product is high when you will feel proud if you make the things yourself, and then the raising awareness of responsible spending to product that creating impact. So that's why we are engaging the people from marginalized community. We using waste as our material because the people awareness on responsible product and the product giving social impact and also environment impact is also growing. That's why we create Kita Timba. And then the potential we see in Indonesia, actually, there are a huge furniture industry in Indonesia, and 20% of the wood used in this industry become a waste. That's why we try to think how to utilize this wood, this small piece of wood, the scrap wood. That's why we make a small toys and then accessories from it. And then there are also agricultural waste in Indonesia. It's really huge. And then there are 1.2 million artistry-related jobs in Indonesia, especially in carpentry and then handcrafting. And most of the work are informal, so it's not really hard to measure it, the contribution to this informal job into the economy. That's why we put them into our stakeholders to make them, to build their capacity. And then the market validation in Indonesia craft industry is almost 2.5 billion US dollars. So it's a huge industry. So if we can get a small share of Indonesian market, it's going to be significant for us and also in ASEAN. And then above all this potential and market demand for this, I have also personal driving factor. Why do I start this company? So in 2010, I joined an international multinational construction company. I don't feeling fulfilled, so I want to live in my hometown and then make a living and doing what I enjoy. So I decided to resign from the company and then going back to my hometown, setting up a company. And since I'm coming a carpenter family, so I really love making things from wood since my childhood. So that's why I want to transform it into a business. So this is the stories, impact stories I've done with Kita Timba. We've been running for 5 years now. And then we already make several impacts because the initial plan of the company is not to create a big factory, but we want to create a plasma or cluster where we teach several artisans in a specific region to produce things. So it's going to be to meet a regional market. So that's why we work with a huge range, wide range of craftsmen in. Surprisingly, at the beginning of the creation of the company, I only planned to work only in Indonesia, but surprisingly, there are our impact is spread out throughout the ASEAN. There are several stories. We collaborate with several artisan and organization outside Indonesia. We currently collaborate with and creating impact in 4 countries. In Singapore, but we still stick on the vision where we try to empower marginalized community, creating it with designers to making product from waste. In Singapore, we create a makeability with Singapore makers and visual impaired community. We create inclusive DIY and product making, activity development, engaging people with visual impaired. And then in Indonesia, we actually have 4 regions where we collaborate with local artisans to create our product line. So product line. So in different region, create a different product. As an example, in Yogyakarta, we create most of the toys there, and then in Surakarta, we create in different region we create a furniture there, and different region also produce a different product also. And then in Philippines, in 2017, we collaborate with Bembike. We work with indigenous people there in Dumagat tribe. We try to transform them from forest logger into entrepreneurs. So we teach them to create product from bamboo, like bamboo bike, bamboo furniture, and kind of it. And then also in Malaysia, we also work with Ministry of Finance in Malaysia in working to develop orang asli or indigenous people there also to mostly on entrepreneurship. But as Mr. Hana said, strategies only work 8%, the 92% is a failure. This was an impact story is what we do before the pandemic. It's a pre-pandemic strategy that actually being blown up in 2020 and everything it's gone. The strategy is no longer working because now there are no reference or book explaining about how to deal with pandemic that have an impact this massive as a coronavirus pandemic. So in 2020, the strategy is no longer working because we work mostly our sales channel is through tourism spot and as a tourism gift. So when the tourism industry is shut down, our revenue is like almost zero. So we have to adapt, like Mr. Hana said before. In a strategy, we have to consider a pivot strategy also in order to expand and also expansion. But in 2020, to deal with the pandemic we never expected before, we have to pivot, and the strategy is simply where our previous strategy is to connect local artisan and designers. So in 2020, because our organization is still small, it's easy to pivot the strategy. The strategy is shifted and pivoted. So in the next 2 years, our strategy is surviving strategy. So it's really a simple strategy. So the concept is everything that generates revenue. We use everything to generate revenue. That's why in late 2020, even though we are mostly producing woodcraft, in late 2020, we collaborate with Ministry of Health in Indonesia to produce face masks, and then what do you call it? The clothes for the health officer kind of. That's why the pivot strategy we had until 2000. I hope the pandemic will end in 2021. So in 2022 we can get back in our initial strategy. And before the pandemic, we already collective economic added around 150,000 US dollar, maybe just a tiny fraction from Shell's budget. But in my perspective, it's generate like 1,000 times of minimum wage in my area, in my hometown. So it's going to be even though the company is still small, it gives significant impact to the craftsmen involved with us. And then this is the several milestones I already lived, and then the milestone that makes our small initiative that coming from a small town reaching. I hope it's global impact because we already engaged with several organizations like Department of State of United States, Department of State that bring us several opportunities to learn and having internship and collaboration with the US organization, and then Malaysian Global Innovation and Creativity Center, who gives us a lot of mentorship and give us a lot of opportunities, including pitching session in Uber headquarters when we loud at because we asked for Uber board around 100,000 US dollar investment. They loud at us. So they said, if you want to ask only 100,000, you shouldn't come to Uber. You should ask for 10 millions and hundreds of millions if you come to Uber. That's why really nice experience for me. And then young Southeast Asian leader initiatives. That's why that bring us a lot of collaboration in ASEAN. Also, we are collaborate with UN Environment Program because we work mostly on waste, and then that's why we have several scholarship to have a short course in Stanford Graduate School of Business. And then we also engage with Ashoka and Robert Bosch Stiftung, which give us opportunity to expand our organization, especially in social entrepreneurship sector. And then, especially in Indonesia, we work with Indonesian Ministry of Tourism and local government in Banjarnegara. And then in the COVID, we got several collaboration with GIZ from Germany. And then because all of this achievement, I getting offered a scholarship from LPDP to pursue a master degree in micro entrepreneurship. That's why I currently took a master degree in micro entrepreneurship in one of top universities in Indonesia, focused on micro entrepreneurship. And then this is several evidence that I got, and one of most notable experience for me is in the bottom left is when we met President Obama in Silicon Valley in Stanford University. We met President Obama and then Mark Zuckerberg, and then founder of Google to the founder of Google to share about entrepreneurship. That's why I really agree with what Mr. Hana said, that everything started in small things, but if you can transform your vision into and put it into culture, it probably you will achieve a big thing in the several years of span. So I will also sharing several hacks to everyone here who want to start a company. So like Mr. Hana said, everything starts in small. So did I and Kita Timba. So the first hack I would say is start with small manageable initiative. You have to start small with everything results you have. You don't need to be you don't need to have a lot of capital, but you only need to start small, but you have to consistent with it, and then make it financially sustainable. And then the second hacks will be do not cash out too early. Like do not measure everything with financial and money at the beginning. You have to make your organization firm, and then there is nothing too big to dream and to achieve. You just start. You just need to break down your dream big into several steps, and it needs time to achieve big things. So I think that's enough for me because I only given 20 minutes to share my experience. So I will happy if there are discussion or question related to my experience. And if the time is not enough, you can just reach me out through my social media in Facebook or email that will be shared later for further discussion. Thank you.
Thanks for sharing amazing presentation with us, Mr. Awaludin. What an amazing achievement too. And it motivates us, like a lot of super achievements. You met a lot of famous people there. So we will proceed to Q&A sessions where we have 2 questions from the participants. So the first question is, how is the process of planning before you start the business of Kita Timba and how long it takes?
Okay. So like I said before, I started this really small. I only started with my pocket money, monthly pocket money. So it's really small. So at the beginning, the strategy was not that what Mr. Hana said, we have to several stage of strategy. We have the marketing, budgeting, because when you start with something small and manageable, everything is going to be inside your head and within your reach. So the strategy is at the first, it's really simple. I ask my friend who is a traditional craftsman to make things, and then ask my friend who is designer to review it, and then after several iteration, we got the product, and I try to sell it. So the strategy was to connect with the traditional artisan with designers, which I know, and then I sell the product through the channel I knew. So if you do it consistently, it will grow. You will be surprised with the result. So the initial strategy, the strategy I shared before to you about the impact we create in 4 countries and everything, it's not really appear in the first week or first month of my company. The first month strategy was to make a product and try to sell it. That's easy as that. But by the time you dig down and doing a research, doing a collaboration and talk with another people, the strategy that will come out and sharpen your vision on the company, and will make you, hopefully will bring it into cultural organization like Mr. Hana said before.
Thank you for your answer, Mr. Awaludin.
Yeah.
And the second question is, if there are something unexpected things happening from your plan, what would you do to overcome it? Okay.
So that's the importance of strategy. That's why we use a strategy as a guidance what we do in the several periods of time. So we have a guidance, we have a direction what to do, and so if something unexpected happen, like the pandemic I said before, we can refer to this guidance whether it's still relevant with that expected things or not. If it's still relevant, we can still use it as a guidance. But if it's no longer relevant, like I experienced, it's no longer relevant to selling gift in the tourism spot because all the tourism spot is closed down. So my guidance, what I initially composed before, it's no longer relevant. So I have to, if the guidance is no longer relevant, I have to find another direction. That's why I doing a pivot and trying to produce mass and everything to survive. That's why you need a strategy to encounter the unexpected things.
Thank you for your answers. And because we still have around 7 minutes for your Q&A sessions, there are 3rd questions from the participants. So the question is, do you think it would be wise to do the business without the strategy planning? And would you take the risk and consequences so you will keep moving on your business? Or you will take longer time for planning and think about the strategy?
Okay. So I think, would a business survive without strategy? It could be. But will the business scaling up and growing? I think it's impossible, because when you do a business and visioning to have the business grow and become a business that lasts a centuries, like Shell, like Toyota, you should create another person. You create another leader. And when you create another leader, you have to communicate the vision. You have to communicate the culture. That's why strategy is needed. Because if you don't have a strategy, maybe your company will successful as long as you're alive. Where you're dead and your strategy goes with you, it's going to be there are no one understanding what the company should do and what we should do next. That's why strategy is important for me, because in my perspective, getting organization to become sustainable is to communicate the vision to another person who might become your successor after you die. So organization and strategizing is about to develop transferring vision from the generation to generation. So the vision will be alive along the organization business activity.
Thank you, Mr. Awaludin, for answering the third questions. What an amazing answers for us.
Thank you.
So, thank you for joining us today, Mr. Awaludin.
Yeah.
We wish the best for you and your business, and hope we can meet again in the futures, maybe for another events, or could be a business partner in the future.
Okay, thank you for Permita Thailand also, and Indonesian Embassy, and all the speaker and participant in this Zoom. And I really feel honored to join this meeting with you guys. Thank you.
Mr. Awaludin. So before we start our next speaker, I would like to remind you, if we have feedback form that we have sent in the chat box, participants can fill it after the event finish, and 3 lucky winners will get the door prize, and the participants will get the electronic certificate too. So check the question box and copy paste the links to the website and the browsers and kindly to fill it. Thank you. So last but not least, we will have co-founder of Environment, a startup company in Thailand, and work in the sustainability campaign and products. Please welcome Mr. Napatara Tamashua. The floor is yours.
Okay, so selamat malam. Sorry for the pronunciation, maybe. But first of all, I'd like to thank Raphael and the whole EK RAF team, the Indonesian Embassy Culture and Education, for actually creating this event and asking me to become a guest speaker. I'm very honored. And also Awaludin from Kita and Timba. So you said Sam was here, you're smaller, so environment will be even smaller than you guys together. And also Sam Hanna as well, one of the greatest teachers, what you guys have seen from what he has talked in 1 hour. I've spent 2 months with him learning about strategy courses, and it was actually very helpful. I used a lot of what you taught and actually applied it to environment itself. So thank you very much for that, and giving out the experience that you have from Shell, from everywhere to everyone. So without further ado, I would like to start. Let me share my screen. You all can see it, right? Okay. So environment, empowerment for the environment. So today I'll be talking about environment backgrounds, and some of you might not have heard of us in Thailand. Some of you might wonder how we started, how did we become environment, what was the journey line, and then the achievements that we are very happy and very honored and put all our effort to create. And last but not least, tips and tricks for some motivation for you guys that actually want to do business. I remember one of you had a dream to create your own business company and everything. So according to environment background, we actually started together in Thammasat University in bachelor's degree. So I studied in the Faculty of Liberal Arts. So we are actually kind of a group of bachelor degree friends. We were in the student committee, we worked together, we hang out 24/7, we did group work. We went to every extracurricular activity that could actually happen in liberal arts, because that's the most fun part-time in life in bachelor's degrees, where you don't have to think much about the future yet, just studying and stuff. And then after graduation, so we all went separate ways. I actually got to work for CP, the multinational international company, for about 2.5 years. And then we also went to different jobs. Some of us went abroad, after graduation, directly to a master's degree. But for me, it took quite a while until I came to took it here. And then there was a part in our lives where it was about business and about the environment. So for me, myself, and some of the co-founders, we were actually working together in CP, right? So we were kind of creating a mindset for business, for everything. We were always interested in business. We went to all the like competitions and everything. Even though we won or not, it would be like experience that could make us grow and become a better person. And then one of my friends went to master's degree. He went to study in China. That's when he started, like, it was around 2 to 3 years ago. So that time the whole like climate change, global warming environment wasn't really a big trend before. But in China, there was a lot of pollution, a lot of PM 2.5, and so many things that my friend saw, and he was like, he wants to help like save the world now. He wants to do something environmentally. So we got a chance to talk together, and then I already had a business mindset with the dream and passion of always wanted to have my own company. That would be like my end goal in life. I might still like find more experience, maybe work a bit, intern a bit, or like go to jobs and stuff. But in the end of my life, I would always want to have my own company. And then my friend wanted to save the environment. So we were talking together and like, how could we do this, right? So that's how we started recruiting people around us and ended up with 6 co-founders of Environment Company Limited. But before, we only started as a Facebook page because we wanted to create awareness in Thailand. Thailand is kind of like a slow development when we talk about like trends or like changing or something that's happened worldwide. And we don't want Thai people to only care about the country Thailand itself. We think that the environment is something more bigger. It should be worldwide. So we started giving out informations and contents. And then later on, I'll talk about one of the main achievements that actually got us to register and became an actual company. So we are one of the leading environmental companies in Thailand. Our main vision is to become like the #1 environmental leader in Thailand. And our mission is to envisage to become the center and companion in creating a friendly environment and reshaping people's mindsets towards simplicity, high value, and fun. Because we want people to like think it's something in their daily lives. It's something easy. Like, why should it be hard from changing regular plastic bottles into maybe like a reusable cup? We don't want people to feel like it's too much effort, and we want everyone to have fun and save the world together. So what do? We've actually changed many times for the business plan. So this would be the like recent business plan in 2021. So as I said before, Sam Hanna's teachings was also one of the things we use to actually create what we are now today. So the first thing is we are environment media. We have all social medias that are famous, whether it's Facebook, Instagram, Blocked, Twitter, YouTube podcasts, all of that. So this will be on the content writing side. These will be mostly about giving out awareness, making people like know what is happening on around the world. Secondly, we have Environment International. This will be kind of like an import-export company. So we want to find new products that are innovative, that are new technology that are working nowadays, and we want to send them back to Thailand. But we also want to send of Thailand's cultures to abroad as well. So this will be mainly trading part. And the third part will be environment power. As you know, there's many new energies, renewable energies like the air, the sun, the water. So environment power will be about all the renewable energies in the future, in which we'll do like market research development, and how we can build it more stronger to save the environment with all these new technologies and innovations. So our main focus right now is on the media and on the awareness. So these are some statistics, which are all organic. So we have never actually boosted at all any posts that we have posted online, except for the ones that were actually like advertisement from companies. So right now, for Facebook followers, we have 545,000 people. And Instagram, we have 9,000. Twitter, we have 900. Blocked, we have 3,000. And we also started creating podcasts in YouTube. So as you can see, our main focus right now is Facebook, which has up to 500K followers. So this was not an easy target. This took quite a time to build up until this situation. At first, like my friends were writing We wrote and posted like 4 or 5 contents per day, every day for at least a year. And then we were actually, I would say, like the organized way of creating the contents, the pictures, the structure, everything that we thought of. I think it was kind of an easy way that people could like maybe have 5 or 10 minutes in the morning before you go to a meeting or actually go to work. You can just like scroll down and take the main topic headlights. If you're interested, you can write what we summarize, the bullet points. If you have further time, we always have links and sources. Nothing we write is from our own like consideration. Mostly it's always actual facts and data that we want to summarize for people to actually understand. And then next, talking about achievements. So there was actually a video, but I might skip it for now because of due to the time. I would like to focus on the back part more. So we actually created 2 events with Siam Discovery. I'm not sure if you know, but Siam Discovery is one of the largest shopping malls in Thailand, like in the middle of Bangkok, close to the Siam Paragon. So we have partners with them then, and this was actually our first main event that we got the chance to co-host with another Facebook page and created a whole event to join exhibitions, talk sessions, and donation points where we try to bring government, private companies, and public companies together to actually talk and find a way to like clear out what's happening. Some people might not know what the government's doing. Some people might not know what companies are doing. This is kind of like a floor for them to shine. So it was quite successful. Siam Piwat itself really liked us, and we actually are collaborating with them every year, once a time. So last year we did an event called the End Day, which was kind of the same concept. And this year we will also be doing another one. If the pandemic is gone, we might host it online. We'll have to see what happens in the future. And another achievement is our partners and clients. Actually, we have very big partners and clients that we have worked with, that we got a chance to collaborate, even at CP, PTGC, Lotus, Set Trade, Nestle itself. So all you can see are like big multinational brands that we got to learn from them, we got to work with them and experience and grow ourselves as well. So the last part before finishing off with the slides would be the tips and tricks for motivation. So for me, I would like to give out a few tricks that I use myself. I'm not sure if it will work, but I hope that it gives some motivation to you guys and can help you guys in the future. So first of all, you need to have like a purpose. Why did you start this company? Why do you want to do this? Why that? What is the main reason and goal so that you are focused on actually creating it to reality? So for myself, my purpose was just like I told you, it was like one of my main dreams that I would like to have my own company and actually run it as the co-founder or as a CEO. And that kept me motivated to actually find people, learn, experience, and use all the information and knowledge that I've got to open up a startup business with some of my friends. So if you don't have the purpose part, you might feel like, okay, you're doing it for a week, 2 weeks, you start to get bored, you can't see it growing anywhere. Some people might stop straight away. But if you have it in your heart, if you know what you want to do, just keep on continuing. And trust me, one day it will be worth it. Just like what Awaludin said, that it doesn't take weeks or months until you see the results. It takes like years. But saying like, is it possible? It can be. For example, the pandemic happened. The mask industry got a lot of profit right away, highly. So anything can happen in life. So never give up. That would be one of the things. Secondly, I would say the atmosphere is one of the main things. And when I say atmosphere, I don't mean like whether the day today is sunny or rainy or is there going to be snow, but I mean like how you choose to live your life with people around you. So for example, I always try to put myself with people who are smart, who are great, who have technology knowledge or same kind interest in me. So that's actually when I met Raphael, also an entrepreneur that most of you might know. So we have like kind of the same lifestyles, and every day we will be talking business, we'll be talking motivations, and we'll kind of keep each other like pumped and hyped all the time to like grow and turn better into the future. And last but not least, successful people. Always learn from them, always find time to talk with them, always watch like videos, podcasts, interviews. Many things from successful people can always help you. I learned a lot of different things from not just teachers or professors, but also watching videos from like Elon Musk, Tesla itself, or like Apple, or like their idea and creativity. But it doesn't mean you have to like copy exactly the same way as them. If they like sleep at 10 p.m., wake up at 3:45, it's their daily routine. But just to be a motivation that there are also people who started from nothing. Most successful people, as you know, never even finished university. They were too smart, they were too intelligent, but they always had a way to like motivate their lives. So I always read and learn and get to know more about them, and it always makes me feel proud and happy and always wanting to do more business. So this is mostly about Environman, about me and myself, my trips and tricks. I hope it helped you a lot. And I would like to once thank everyone again, the team and everyone participating here, and would always love to be the change you want to see in the world with us. I hope you guys, we can come together and we can help one another save the world for not just our generations, but for the future as well. And right now, if anyone has any questions or anything, you can always ask me, or you can contact me in social media directly. LinkedIn, Facebook, almost everywhere I use this name, Napatarata Machua. So please feel free to ask, and I hope I can give you some advice or some knowledge that can help you.
Thank you, Mr. Napatara. Because we still have like around 4 minutes, maybe you could show in the video that you have planned in the presentations
Sure.
before we proceed to the Q&A session. Thank you.
So this was the first event that we created and had a chance to do. Yes, so this was like our event, our first event that happened, and we were like actually shocked that more than we expected came to like register. Like some people registered online, but there were many people who walked in. And what's most surprised is that almost 50% of the people who came to our event were actually foreigners. So I ended up talking like English more than Thai in that event. So it was actually quite proud how like even foreigners who are living here, they are caring about the environment. So how can we make Thai people more like pumped up, more hyped, and care about the environment as well?
Thank you, Mr. Napatara, for amazing presentation and video, and glad to have you here with us here today. So we have several questions from audience. So for the first questions from Mr. Shahril, I want to know what kind of culture and strategy that you use as your company base that strongly develop your company in the future.
So what culture and strategy, right?
Yes.
So for me, I would say due to like we are all friends together and we've been through a lot. So one of the main key things I would say in a strategy in business would be communication. Like no matter if you have a problem with one another or if you don't know what to figure out or you don't know what to do, sometimes talking together, asking each other, just saying will help you actually pass that obstacle or that thing that you're stuck on and actually keep on growing. And the mindset that we create is like, okay, even though we're friends, but when it's working time, everything is talked in a business perspective. So if there's voting happening, if there's this and that happening, there's like yelling and maybe screaming or like fighting with one each other for actual ideas that benefits the companies, it will happen. Trust me. There's no way that everything will go like perfectly smooth in a company. It's very hard. But the main thing is you have to know the difference between friends and business. You have to know when business is done, okay, you're back to friends. You hang out, you have fun. So that's exactly what happens with us. We are able to like distinguish from one another. We know when it's work time, we know when it's play time. And due to liberal arts, I feel like we have a lot of creativeness in our mindsets and stuff. So this is where we apply all the strategies we use, we understand one another, and it keeps on going, moving on.
Thank you for amazing answer, Mr. Napatara. So we have another question here. What is the hardest challenge of planning and strategy for you and team when started the environment?
For me, the hardest challenge when it comes to environment is making people believe and want to change. Because as I've learned from Sam Hanna also, not only from strategy, but change management itself, if something is done differently from your daily routine, sometimes you just block yourself from receiving that. So when it comes to environment, as I said, some people have mindsets that, okay, I have my own life. How come I have to change myself to help the world to be a better place? Why can't I just focus on me? I've even met with some people who are like, they don't care. I'm gonna live my life. I have like 60 years left, 30 years left. I'll be like die soon, not to like tell them that they should die, but like the hardest thing is to make people believe that it's something actually easy, something that's able to do. It's not out of our reach. It's not like going to space or going to Mars that takes a lot of technology. It just takes a little bit of push, a little bit of change. But if everyone does it, let's say just Thailand itself, 70 billion people are using reusable cups. How many plastic can we save? How much waste can we save? There's so much more things to the environment than we think. We're kind of like sharing the whole world together, the environment and people. So that's why we chose the word environment, because we want the environment and we want man, as in both man and woman, to be able to live together in a peacefully world where animals, environment, trees, nature, they can all grow, they can all shine, and we can all live our daily lives and normal lives without harming them or hurting them. It would take time, but I think right now, due to the situation and the whole world, I think we're growing more and more to care about this situation, this nature actually.
Thank you, Mr. Napatara, for your answers. And we still have around 6 minutes for your Q&A sessions, and we have one more question from the participants. So the question is, hey Napatara, what are good deeds and delivery that you do? I've also been in this kind of effort back in Indonesia. So finally, I go separate ways, campaigning to reduce the plastic waste in river. Anyway, I would like to have your perspectives. I've seen that you try raise the awareness on environment while also to develop business model as well. How you make a balance between these two, and what your perspective on the sensitive issues on environment that might affect your business.
Mm, so for me, it would be up to your own thinking. I'm not saying that you have to do like 50% business, 50% environment. There are also many NGOs, many companies in Thailand who do like fully 100% environment, non-profit organizations and stuff. But for me, as I said, like starting from the start, we had both business and environment. So we kind of have like teams and strategy to create the most efficient use of it as possible. So for example, if it was environment media, which is about content and awareness, that might focus more on the environment rather than the business part itself, because we're mainly just giving out information, giving out knowledge, showing people what's happening around. So we might not worry about the business part, whether or not we will get profit to run the business continually. But that's when we had to start thinking of other routes, other ways to like expand our business. We can't only work in the media business forever. It's impossible to grow at a high rate step if you do the same thing over and over for many years. That's why you can see like many people start going to these industries that you haven't even known that they did it before. So for me, I would say like I try to balance both environment and business in a way that it is able for me to have a living, but it is also not gaining too much because we actually care about the environment. It's not like we want to sell like maybe a reusable cup for, let's say, 3,000 baht, you know. We would want it to be able for people to grab and reach, but we also need to do the business side or else we cannot make a living for ourselves as well.
So thank you, Mr. Napatra, for answering those questions. Good luck for the plan, and I hope you can achieve the goals as you wish, together with your team in environment. So, well, that's wrap up our event today. We hope that this event will be an opening gate for you for your career in the future. On behalf of Indonesian Student Association in Thailand, thank you all for making time to join us here today. It has been our pleasure to host this event. Special thanks for our honorable guest speakers and Mr. Ahmad Wicaksono from the representative of Indonesian Embassy in Thailand to join us in this event tonight. We look forward to seeing you at the next event of Business Insight Part 2 of Ekraf on September, and we will update you soon in our social media. And for reminder, please fill out the feedback form that we have shared in the chat box. Your feedback will help us to improve our work in the next events. Write your complete name in the feedback from the electronic certificate that we will send you, and you could win door prize too. So don't forget. So dear guys, that's all, and have a pleasant day. And we will take a picture before we leave. And for all, can you open your camera and we will take screenshot together. Thank you.
Yeah, super God.
Please kindly open your camera and we can take screenshot together. Come on guys, don't be shy. Just open and take a screenshot together. And maybe like, that's all. Anyone who can open the camera more? We have a lot of participants here. Okay, no one? Okay, it's fine. So Mr. Aziz, you could take screenshot for us and I will give the countdown. So we will take a picture in like 3, 2, and 1. And maybe one other picture, maybe something relaxed pose. And Mr. Aziz, could you screenshot in 3, 2, and 1.
Yeah.
Thank you all, and that's all. And have a pleasant day. Participants may leave the Zoom meeting, and maybe you could stay to join to a small chit chat with us for a while. But the participant could go and leave the meeting Zoom. Thank you for joining us today.
Thank you
Thank
very much.
you.
Thank you very
Sam
much.
Hana, thank you. Mas
Ya,
Amaluddin,
terima
terima
kasih
kasih.
Pak.
Thank you.
Thank you. Good chat.
Thank you all. Thank you for joining us.
Thank you, Mas Rafael, Mas Saril. Thank you.
Thank you for our guest speakers, Mr. Semhana, Mr. Napatara, and Mr. Awaludin, and our Mr. Ahmad Wicaksono, the educational representative from embassy. Thank you for
Yeah.
supporting our event today, and we have a lot of good things and insights and knowledge for all of us.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you.
May I leave now? I have another meeting.
Yeah,
Thank
thank
you.
you.
Yeah.
Terima kasih Pak. Terima kasih
Yeah.
Pak.
Thank you. Nice to meet you.
Sama-sama, Mas Saril. Terima kasih, Mbak Rose. Terima kasih.
Thank you,
Semua
terima kasih.
sehat-sehat. Yeah.
Maybe for Ekraf team,
Assalamualaikum.
we can stay